Hi guys, hello everybody, welcome. I'm Josh Horowitz, and today on Happy, Sad, Confused, we're live at the 92nd Street Y with Adam Scott, everybody. Welcome, thank you. Severance is back. They made us wait, but it was worth the wait, wasn't it, guys? Nearly 3 years after the amazing first season, Severance is back. This audience in New York City has just seen the first episode. It's awesome, guys. Come on, am I right? It's back in a big way. You ain't seen nothing yet. Yes, the trippiest workplace comedy, dramedy, mystery on television is back. We're going to dig into that show, but we're also going to talk about this guy's amazing career. He can do drama, he can do comedy, Step Brothers, Parks and Rec. He can do it all. He's a gem of a human being. He's finishing up a ginormous press tour in New York, and he's finishing it out in style here in New York City on this stage. Please give a warm New York City welcome to Adam Scott, everybody. There he is.
Well, thank you. Don't worry, I'm not going to do it again.
He's a succubus. He needs it.
Yeah.
Just take it in,
it does
Adam.
Feel nice.
It's well deserved. It's good to see you, man.
Yeah, great to see you.
Congratulations.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for coming.
Adam Paul Scott. Not one, not two, three first names.
I know.
Your parents were psychopaths. What's going on?
Well, my parents, originally my middle name was going to be Skiles, which is a Sicilian family name. And I wish they had kept it because what they realized was my initials would be ASS.
Destiny.
Which would have been great.
Would have been amazing.
Yeah.
What a gift that would have been. We'll take what we can get. Congratulations again, man. The show is fantastic. You have been doing a big press tour for this, and this is about wrapping up the New York portion, correct?
Yeah, this is it. This is it, going home in the morning.
Okay, so by the way, the last time you were on my podcast was 10 years ago, and you were promoting Hot Tub Time Machine 2.
Oh, yes. Thank you, thank you. We should hold for applause, right? That was very generous of you to have me on. Did we talk about that movie the entire time?
It was a 3-hour podcast.
That's
I had
right.
so many questions.
We had to dive in.
I was asking you about this backstage, but I mean, were you worried? It was a bit of a break. It took a while between strikes and everything to bring the show back on the air, and the short attention span of our small brains nowadays, you never know if the audience is still going to be there. Were you concerned that the audience would still be there for season 2 of Severance?
100%. I mean, we were kind of astounded by the reaction to season 1 in the first place, just because we loved the show. We loved making it and loved the result after it was all cut together and everything. But you just never know until it's out there. And, you know, while we were making it, we felt like it was really weird and just had no idea if it would connect with anybody, or even if anyone would care, if it would be embarrassing. If people would make fun of it, we did not know. And then when the billboards started going up, at least around Los Angeles, it was like my face. And you'd think that's the big moment you've been waiting for.
What you wanted.
Yes, and it was, but when it happened, I freaked out. Because I thought, what if people think it's stupid and weird? And, you know, you just don't know. Again, we loved it, but you just don't know. So Ben, who's had his face up on many a billboard, kind of talked me down and was like, listen, we love the show. We have no control over anything else. We just put it out there, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, at worst, you've made the cable guy, and in 20 years, people are going to realize you did a great piece of work.
There you go. There you go.
You have been making the rounds. You've had everything from you know you've made it when you've got the New Yorker profile. I mean, you're a serious dude now.
Right.
Surprised you're here with me. But you also did this amazing stunt, for lack of a better term, in Grand Central. Did you guys see this? We have a photo. There's So you kind of recreated the workplace with some of your coworkers.
Yeah.
When you heard this idea, what did you think?
I thought it was an incredible idea, and we had a great time. It's our actual desk from the show, our computer terminals. So Britt Lauer and Zach Cherry and I first walked out and sat down and just started working because we know how to refine. We've spent... We do, and we started doing it. We spent so much time in those chairs at those desks. So we just started working, and then they started messing with me like they do on the show. They refused to work, and I just tried to we just kept improvising in character, but the greatest thing about it was our improvisation was unheard because the audience couldn't hear us. So they just assumed everything we were doing was incredibly clever. Yeah. It was fun. And then Patricia Arquette and Tremel Tillman come in. About an hour in, they walk in, and the entire crowd that had gathered got silent. It was wild because they're scary. And they came in, and Patricia was kind of going around to each of us and scaring the shit out of us. And it was just a blast. We were in there for 3 hours.
Is that the most avant-garde kind of piece of performance art you've ever done? This is like what Tilda Swinton does. Like she'll lost in like a glass box somewhere.
Yeah.
You're entering that echelon.
I guess so. I mean, it was certainly exciting, and again, not knowing how people would react or if they would react at all. We just kind of thought it sounded like a great idea. Let's go give it a shot.
Okay, so let's backtrack to the origins of this show, at least with respect to how you kind of became involved in the first place. Where were you at? Were you actively looking for another show, a drama, a comedy, anything in your mind, or was it just sort of like this came cold and it seemed interesting?
Yeah, I mean, after Parks and Rec, I really made a concerted effort to try and find something different, something maybe more dramatic. And the first chance I got was an audition came up for Big Little Lies. And so I really went after that and really wanted to be a part of it. And luckily got a role on that. And that really kind of helped, I think, just because before Step Brothers, I was purely always kind of envisioned myself as a dramatic actor.
This is the secret of Adam Scott. You all think he's like, oh, he came out of the womb, he wanted to do wacky comedy.
No,
it was a late kind of thing for you.
Yeah, I really I grew up a comedy nerd and loved, all that stuff. But my guys were like Albert Brooks, Steve Martin, David Letterman, but I kind of just always felt I was destined to be a dramatic actor. And I was on an HBO show called Tell Me You Love Me, which is a wonderful show and incredibly serious. And right around that time is when Step Brothers came up. It was actually in between seasons of Tell Me You Love Me, the second season of which never ended up happening. I went and did Step Brothers, and it was just a complete fluke. Someone had the role and had to drop out for one reason or another, so they had to cast the role quickly. And I just happened to go in there, and for whatever reason, I got the part and found myself on the set not knowing what I was doing. Adam McKay, who directed the movie, Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly obviously were the stars of it. And they have this anarchic way of working that's really exciting that I had never experienced before, which is, they do maybe a take or two scripted, and then they just screw around and see what happens. And, I wasn't a member of UCB. I didn't know really what I was doing. So I kind of equate it to learning how to, throw the javelin at the Olympics, right? With all the cameras and the stadium of people watching you. So I sort of learned on my feet there, and by the end of the 4 months of shooting, I felt like I was maybe getting my arms around it a little bit and having some fun and loosening up. And by the time the movie ended, all I knew was I never wanted to work any other way.
Right.
This was
is a drug.
This was
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
We had Catherine Hahn here very
Oh,
recently.
sure.
So what was she your anchor? Like, who were you looking to kind of like get through? Because McKay and Farrell are just on another level
Yes.
in that realm.
They are, but also incredibly collaborative and inviting and just lovely people. But yes, Catherine and I were the two people who just kind of kept looking at each other like, holy shit, what are we doing here?
Are we allowed to say that?
Yeah.
This seems wrong.
Yeah, it was amazing. So yes, 100%. But Catherine really cottoned to it pretty quickly and just was scoring 3-pointers after 3-pointers the entire time. And I kind of stumbled off the blocks a little bit, or at least that's how it felt. She was brilliant right out of the gates, of course. But yeah, so by the time that ended, I had kind of caught the bug and really loved it and really felt like, it just felt really creative and collaborative in a way I hadn't experienced before. And then that sort of led directly into Party Down, which then was, thanks, which sort of fed that some more. Even though that wasn't a particularly improvisational show, it was, we were all sort of together, in it together, because no one was watching, so we were doing it for each other.
So that obviously then goes to Parks and Rec. So you accumulate this insane, like out of nowhere, considering your background, comedy resume.
Yeah.
So then by the time, and you had done a show with Craig Robinson in more recent years, so you were still like in the comedy sphere, though you were doing Big Little Lies. You were kind of mixing it up more and more.
Yeah.
So when this comes around, and is it true that this was actually written with you in mind?
Yeah, Dan Erickson, who created the brilliant Dan Erickson, created and writes the show. He says when he was first writing it, he was thinking of me, and then when it came to Ben, Ben said he first thought of me. I'm still, I'm so lucky that these guys thought of me. I'm still not exactly sure why, but I'm very glad that they did. Ben called me in January of 2017 and just kind of gave me the elevator pitch, so to speak, of what the show is. Just a quick, 3-sentence, this is the idea. And it just stuck in my mind. And I read a script probably about a year later, but that entire time I just couldn't get this really sticky, fun idea out of my head.
Is it true that essentially after that and kind of being offered and saying, yeah, we have you in mind for this, you then unfortunately were forced to essentially audition for the part you thought you already had?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And you know what? It was fine because at that point I was, I started acting professionally in the fall of 1993. And so it's been a pretty long road, and the kind of pride-swallowing situations I've found myself in over the years, this was nothing. I have to audition for this role that I mean, honestly, the first time I actually read the script, my gut instinct was, I'm never actually going to get to do this.
Why?
Well, just because it was so good. And through Ben's utter faith in me, I was able to get in there and audition for it and fight for it a little bit, and I got it.
I would imagine you and Ben, I mean, there are some major similarities in your careers. Have you bonded over that, in that he, for a time, was defined by comedy, and then kind of has gone back and forth throughout his career? Yeah. Does he see in you, I mean, not to speak for Ben, but I feel like he must see in you a kindred spirit in that realm?
Perhaps. We've never actually sat down and kind of talked about this, but our tastes align, and we work together really well. I think I love working with him, and we have a great time. He's someone who I can just trust 100% of the time. I just trust his taste above all else. And I think when it's something as micro-specific as Severance, trusting each other is essential, because we're constantly kind of walking out on the edge and closing our eyes and jumping off with one idea or the other.
When you think back to the first days and weeks of season 1, did you feel it was working? Did you feel like you were kind of finding it as you went? What do you recall as the first moments of kind of finding what the show was?
Yeah, that's where a lot of the trust in Ben comes in, from me to Jeremy Hindle, our production designer, to Jessica Lagagne, our cinematographer. All of us, everybody, and the actors, all trusting Ben, because we were there and Dan had written this beautiful script. The first day I walked on the actual set, and it is exactly as you see it on the show. I was like, oh, okay, this is gonna do like 70-80% of my work for me, because I'm actually here. This world is fully alive and realized. And Ben and Jeremy had been working on that for quite some time. And so those first weeks we were really finding the tone and the feeling of the show together, led by Ben. And so he would be like, yeah, but what about this? Maybe this? And it's like, yeah? Okay. And then we just sort of and then eventually it was like, yeah, this feels right. This is weird and different. But that feels like what it should be. And it was this sort of intangible place that we found where the world really lives. And Dan's script really helped guide us there as well, because there's all that really kind of specific nomenclature of the culture of Lumon and Kier and all of that stuff that really kind of helped us. It kind of worked as like a real compass for us as well.
Was it clear from the start how you were going to differentiate innie Mark and outie Mark, and like how physically, how vocally, how extreme to go in kind of differentiating it?
Well, I mean, the first sort of instinct for any actor, maybe, at least for me, was like, oh, okay, one of them should have, a special walk, and the other one should have like a mustache and a hat, and, but, we kind of felt from the beginning, Dan and Ben and I, really, that it should feel like the same guy, but just like different sections of the same guy, sort of like how you have, you behave differently if you're visiting home with your family, or if you're at a party of complete strangers. Everybody has a few different sort of personas you can just throw on at a moment's notice, and this is sort of that, but also sort of not. It's just the same person. So yeah, one of them has had 40-odd years of life experience and joy and sorrow and all the things that go with a full life, and the other one is, for all intents and purposes, 2.5 years old. So we kind of had to find, it was kind of a matter of just like subtracting experience or adding experience, and finding the kind of that transformation in the elevator and sort of figuring that out really helped, define the corners of each of the sections of the character.
Yeah, so let's talk about the elevator transition, because some of that is achieved through what I guess you guys call a Zolly.
Yeah,
right?
Zolly, yeah.
Right, which is, I assume, a dolly and a zoom contraption
Sure.
combined. But part of it's performance too. So again, did you go through different iterations, how extreme to go? And what are you doing? Like in your head, when it's time to do it, what do you do?
Right. It was a big question, because it so easily could be corny and not work. So we tried it probably a couple hundred times. I don't know, just kept experimenting till we found what worked. Ben just had this kind of mini elevator set off to the side wherever we would be shooting, where when we had time, we would go and just try a few out and see what started to gel and what started to work. And it is that zoom dolly shot that, it's very famous in Jaws, when Roy Scheider kind of first sees the shark for the first time, where you're dollying in while zooming out, or dollying back while zooming in. So it creates this effect. So we're doing that, and And Ben sort of had the idea to kind of maybe we flutter the eyes back, maybe that. So we tried a variety of different things. Many of them did not work and were corny, but we did eventually land on this thing. And for me, just going from one to the other, it's just a matter of, it's sort of like a math problem. It's just kind of scooping out a certain amount of experience and feeling and kind of, I don't know, distilling it down to the basics. And then going up, you're just kind of adding all of this stuff and kind of weighing down with everything that comes with living in the outside world. I don't know, it's a hard thing to sort of put into words, but I usually need to do it several times before I feel like it's any good or not weird.
Have you had to teach new members of the cast the art of, of going up and down the elevator?
No, everybody's really great at it and probably got it way quicker than I did.
What do you think the lesson is of something like this succeeding in the way it has? Because I think it's like, it is so wonderfully weird, so specific.
Yeah.
And in these times when everyone's trying to kind of like, I feel, chase mass appeal, the fact that something like Severance has clicked with an audience in this way, I mean, there's a good takeaway here. I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah.
Do you?
No.
Does anybody here know?
I don't know. I feel like the more specific you get, I feel like sometimes the feeling, and I've certainly had it many times myself, when you're trying to kind of come up with something or find your way with something, you feel like broadening something out and making it as accessible as possible and keeping in mind an audience and wanting everyone to get it and understand and connect with it. Usually, or not usually, sometimes has the opposite effect.
Yeah, waters it down where it's...
Yeah, whereas the more specific you get and the more personal you get and the more of yourself that you're willing to pour into it and the more of yourself that you're willing to share with an audience, the more that the audience will connect. I think, is there a saying, the more specific you get, the more universal you get? I
Something
don't know.
along those lines.
I don't know. It also depends on the world and the project. It's always somewhat of a crapshoot. You never quite know what's going to work. But I feel like we were all really lucky to stumble upon that Ben and Jackie Cohn and Nikki Weinstocker's company at the time came upon the script. And the script, by the way, was a writing sample. He wasn't submitting it to get Severance produced. He was submitting it just to say, hey, I wrote this. I can do other stuff.
Yeah. No, Dan's story in and of itself, you should look up. It's just amazing because he did not have this resume. This is a guy just out of nowhere, seemingly.
That's right.
This.
That's right.
How has your barometer been over the years when you've done TV or film projects? Like, do you feel like you've had a good sense of what's going to click or not? Like, when you're making Torque, are you like, I'm going to make 7 Torques. I'm all set now.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, you always feel like you know how something's feeling, and then when it's all cut together, and there's so much beyond an actor's control, honestly, that I've learned to just disconnect as far as trying to predict or guess how something is going to end up.
We were talking backstage. I brought up David Lynch with you. I mean, were you like Twin Peaks guy, a Lost guy? I mean, this follows in a lineage of these great mysteries that kind of dole out just enough and keep an audience going. What kind of shows have intrigued you, have brought you in, like Severances for the modern audience today?
I was at the time and still am a huge fan of Lost. I just love that show. Yeah, it's so amazing. And they were making 22 to 24 episodes a season. Yeah. And you go back and watch that show, particularly the first season, when they didn't know if anyone was going to like this. It was super weird, and that show is just so ambitious. I mean, towards the end, there's people. Some of them are out on a raft. Some of them are digging in, trying to get the hatch open. And I have no idea how they were able to do that.
Are you the kind of fan that has theories? Like when you were watching Lost, did you have your own theories?
Oh, absolutely, yeah,
What
for
did you,
sure.
What do you think? What did you know that they were all
I
dead?
don't, I don't remember.
Were you on Reddit? Did Reddit exist? Was there a blog?
Man, if Reddit existed back in the Lost days, wow. Wow.
It almost sounded like Christopher Walken. That was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
Do fans want to know more about Walken or the goats when they come up to you?
That's a really good question. I think I get the goats more often, actually, which is crazy. I would ask about Walken.
Same. What have you learned from working with Christopher Walken? He's a unicorn. He's
Yeah.
one of a kind.
He really is, and he's just such a sweet, cool person. And when you're working with Christopher Walken, and in season 1, I didn't get to work with him, all that. I had a couple scenes, and so what I was able to notice right off the bat is that there is absolutely zero difference between him pre-action and post-action, meaning that his presence is so relaxed and he's so present,
Right.
that he's able to bring a full understanding and full life to what he's doing on camera, which is what we're all trying to do. We're all trying to get there.
That's the name of the game.
Yeah.
Shut out the noise.
Yeah, man. He's as good as it gets. That's why when you watch him, you believe every nanosecond of it, because it's real. He's managed to, and he's always been that way. You watch Annie Hall, he was that, he's just one of our great actors.
Start eliminating punctuation. Does he do that? Is that real, that he actually gets rid of all the punctuation in scripts?
I don't know. I don't know. I heard that back, heard him say that on James Lipton, I think. And
So,
cool.
okay, season 2, this audience has just seen the first episode. For those that haven't seen season 1, just catch us up in 30 seconds. What happens?
No problem.
There is an amazing bit of exposition done in this episode, thanks to the voice, as it were, of the Lumon building. Did anybody recognize that voice?
Yeah. Keanu, yeah.
Keanu, we can say that now.
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves.
I know.
When, how, what do you know?
Ben, I guess he just reached out. I actually don't.
It's perfect.
I know.
On so many levels.
It is. I remember when he told me on set who's going to do the voice, and I was just so unbelievably happy. And first thing I did was text my wife, Naomi, who's just an enormous Keanu Reeves fan, as am I. I mean, good Lord. He's so great and did an incredible job.
Could he show up in corporeal form, in human
God.
form?
How great would that be?
Have you shared space with Keanu Reeves in your life, in your many Hollywood adventures?
I have actually once, yeah. Got to eat dinner next to each other once, yeah. It was
magical life.
It was
you lead.
as magical as you would think it would be.
Okay, so
Great table manners.
of course, infamously the nicest guy in showbiz.
Yep.
Okay, so again, this is one of those shows it's hard to talk about going forward because we're not going to spill any secrets. But
That's
the journey of Mark this season, obviously, we ended on a hell of a cliffhanger in season 1. How would you define Mark's journey through this season?
Well, I think that, the show really, we kind of widened the aperture of the show in season 2. And I think also the characters, their worlds get a bit bigger, and we watch them all expand, and Mark is no different. We get to see Mark's innie and outie. Mark's innie obviously is dealing with this vital, explosive piece of information, and whether or not his outie becomes privy to this information. The innie and the outie, do they have similar interests? will their interests, join together? Will they collide? We don't know, but
You know.
you can. I do know.
So you could just solve it for us very quickly.
You can rest assured that it will be quite a journey. I don't know. I don't want to say that. That's
Turned into promo guy.
Let's stop saying journey.
But do you guys, I mean, I would think you, Ben, Dan, everybody that works on the show, you again, the Lost analogy I think is a good one. Like, there has to be that discussion of like how much to dole out, how much to keep an audience kind of asking questions, asking new questions, what's satisfying for an audience. Is that an ongoing kind of debate?
Sure. I mean, I think it's a legitimate thing to be thinking about, and I think that it's good to kind of be thinking about. We don't want to keep the audience in the dark. I think somewhat of an unofficial rule is for any question that might be answered, there should be a few new ones asked. But I think that I mean, there certainly is a reason for everything occurring on the show. It's all rooted.
There's been a lot of talk, obviously, the opening scene of the season 2 premiere is you running.
Yes.
Have you ever discussed your physical activity this much
Oh my God.
in the course of your press?
Well, I've never run this much, that's for sure.
Right. Period. In a show or just in your life?
Never. No, in life, nothing. My God. Yeah, it all started because as Ben and Dan were figuring out the beginning, how the season gets kicked off, Ben asked me, what would you do if this happened to you? What would you do? And my just sort of knee-jerk was that I would just start running. I would run and try to find Miss Casey. Because I just found out, it's been 3 years for us, but for the character, it's been 10 seconds since the end of season 1. So that kind of got Ben off on this kind of creative, set him on this creative path where he came up with this running sequence that we ended up shooting bit by bit over about 5 months. And has everything from me kind of, in the elevator with this big kind of robotic arm spinning around me and going around, and where we had to choreograph it very carefully because once the robotic arm is set in motion, there's no stopping it. And this thing is huge and could, I don't know, take off your head.
What a way to go, though. What a story.
Oh, fantastic way to go.
Imagine the ratings.
And all on camera.
Yeah.
And then at one point, I'm running on a treadmill while on a harness in case I trip. I can just kind of float there. I knew more running was coming whenever a PA would come up to me and say, "Hey, which color Gatorade is your favorite?" I forget. That meant within the next couple of days there would be some more running.
And yet, it wasn't the running that caused the concussion and the bloody nose?
It's not the running that caused those things.
What's happening to you? Are you falling apart?
I guess so.
Thank you. It's okay.
Is that what Jeff Goldblum screamed at?
Yeah, I warned Adam. I called the Jeff Goldblum rule because we get audience questions, and Jeff reacted. He was a little extreme in his reaction. He got scared. So I warned Adam.
Okay, that's why I didn't scream.
But I saw fear in your eyes.
Yes, it's frightening.
But no, the concussion and the bloody nose.
Yeah, it was
just macro data refining, and
that's right. And I just hit myself. Yeah, the bloody nose. I didn't know why that was happening, but it wouldn't stop. So we had to shut down production. I had to go to an emergency room and get the inside of my nose cauterized. Oh. Have you had this done?
No.
You got to do it.
Everyone in Hollywood's doing it now.
It's so
Ozempic
fun.
And cauterizing.
Yes. I asked the doctor if it was going to hurt, and he just said, "Well, yeah." But the far more challenging aspect is that it's going to feel like I'm shooting pepper up your nose. Oh. Don't sneeze. So it did feel like there was a lot of pepper in my nose, and he had to cauterize. Meanwhile, Ben is in the corner taking photos.
Sure. For posterity. Yeah,
Sure.
for research.
But it stopped the nosebleed.
Speaking of the physical activity, you've worked with a number of co-stars who have gotten like the 8-pack abs and turned into superheroes.
Yeah.
Whether it's Pratt or Rudd.
Yeah.
Adam, it's your time.
It's time.
The running was the beginning.
That's right.
The nose story doesn't help the cause necessarily,
no.
but are you willing to?
To get the 8-pack?
Yeah.
How do you know I don't already have an 8-pack? I don't understand.
Show it off. We're ready.
Okay.
What a twist. The first time at 92Y, someone just raised their shirt.
That's right. Very different culturally for this.
You did dabble in the superhero world.
Yeah.
You're Peter Parker's uncle, apparently.
That's right.
According to canon now.
That's right.
Yeah, he was, of course, in Madam Web.
Yep.
Anything to say about Madam Web?
I mean, what is there left to say?
I left it open-ended for your...
Sure.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it.
Talk to me about, okay, so this one, your involvement in this, you're a producer now, I believe, in season 2, correct? Mm-hmm. So does that change it must change the job, or is it once you're in production, you get rid of the producing hat and you're just wearing actor hat? Is that tough to kind of go back and forth when you're in production on something like this that demands a lot of you as an actor?
No, I love it. I've been doing this for 30 years now, which is so weird. And I've found that for me, I am at my happiest when I get home and I've worked all the hours of the day. The 3-hour breaks and stuff are nice, and but I like being able to fill my time as much as possible. And creatively, I love producing and I love being helpful where I can, and that's essentially what I try to do as a producer, is just be as helpful and be available as much as I can to help solve problems or just discuss something creatively if it needs discussing.
Day-to-day in your life now, is Parks and Rec just always a part of your life? Like, are there quotes, references from fans every day, pretty much?
For sure, yeah. And the Parks fans are the best fans, always. Just the sweetest, smartest, kindest group of people. And the whole cast is close. We're all on a text chain together and everything. So it's all great. We're all buddies.
Who's the best texter in that chain? Who's
the best texter?
Yeah, who delivers the best gifts, the best commentary?
Retta's an excellent texter. Yeah, Retta's great at everything, so texting is no surprise.
Since we breezed by Step Brothers, I'm not going to play the clip. Can we jump to the Parks and Rec clip that I had? I'm talking to the forces out there. I'd love to just show a clip from Parks and Rec just to reminisce.
Sure.
We're here anyway.
I love it.
If you guys can play the Parks and Recreation clip next, that would be amazing.
Hey man, you want to go for a jog? Just sort of kick out the cobwebs, get some endorphins going?
Oh, no thanks, Chris. Kind of tearing this claymation video a new one right now.
You know, Ben, I really think you need to take a step back here. I think getting some perspective would be good.
What are you talking about?
I've known you a long time, and right now, you need help.
With my claymation?
With your life. You are wildly, insanely depressed.
Depressed? I'm the furthest thing from depressed. I mean, look at what I've accomplished. Do you see him? Do you think a depressed person could make this? No.
Well, I haven't seen that in a really long time. I mean, I've seen the meme part.
Right. Does it
The
take you
depressed
back?
part.
Does it take you back? What do you remember?
Well, I haven't seen the show in a long time, honestly, because it makes me sad to see the show, because I miss them, and I miss all the actors, even though we're constantly in touch and stuff. But I miss the time of making. It was a really just joyful 5 years for me, 7 years for the show. Getting to go work there every day with that group of people, we had so much fun, and we're making something that meant something to people, and meant something to us, and so yeah, I haven't really seen it in a while, but I should, because that was fun just seeing.
It's a good show. You should watch it. Yeah, it is one of those shows you're going to your dying day going to be asked about.
Yeah,
going to be asked about getting back together.
For sure.
In your mind, is it the kind of show that you want like every 10 or 15 years to like do something together just to try it, or does it feel like leave well enough alone?
I don't know. I mean, that's entirely up to Mike Schur and Amy Poehler and Greg Daniels, who created it with Mike. I mean, but we did something during the pandemic. We made like a new episode where we were all in our homes. But the show itself, the series finale, kind of took us to the end.
Yeah.
It jumped pretty far ahead in the future, so I'm not sure what else there is to add. But it's not up to me at all.
Is it harder to describe macro data refining or Cones of Dunshire?
Oh my God. Honestly, probably macro data refining is probably easier.
Oh, easier, okay.
Yeah, easier, yes.
Yeah.
I think Cones of Dunshire is impossible.
So what?
Didn't we play Cones of Dunshire at one point?
There is video evidence of this somewhere on the internet.
Yeah.
So what are you doing when you're refining? What's the directive? How have you figured out how to macro data refine?
You mean like technically?
Yeah, literally, what are you doing?
Yeah, those computer monitors and the keyboards are specifically designed for the show, and they really do work. And so the sort of mouse type device that you're using, you're grouping numbers together, but it's entirely based on feeling, and you're kind of selecting a group of numbers and then binning them one group at a time. Pretty much as you see it on the show. That's what you do. And we're all quite good at it.
You put in the hours.
We sure did.
Okay, some questions from our audience. What was it like to play a bridge officer on the USS Defiant for your role in Star Trek First Contact?
Yeah.
Ben must be very jealous. Ben is the biggest Star Trek fan.
He's a big Star Trek nerd, yeah. In his office, he has a bunch of buttons from the USS Enterprise that are kind of behind glass. And they're quite beautiful too. They're cool. But I think, a bunch of stuff. What was it like? It was great, and I was done by like 11 a.m. That was it. Yeah, that was what, 1996 maybe that movie came out? 1997, something like that. I had auditioned, I think, for a larger role in the movie and didn't get it, and so Jonathan Frakes, who directed it and is a super nice guy, he had me come in and do that, for which I was grateful. I was able to pay rent.
Does Leslie Knope exist in the Severance universe? And if so, does she want to shut down Lumon?
I hope she does. She would make any universe all that much better.
Adam wants to know, for the love of God, what's the deal with the goats?
Yeah,
Is there an answer?
I mean, there's an answer for everything, Josh.
Dream podcast guest. Have you listened to, by the way, Adam and Ben are doing a great Severance podcast.
Yeah.
If you love the show, check out the podcast.
Thank you. It has a really cool name. It's called The Severance Podcast with Ben Stiller and Adam Scott. We'd spent a day kind of trying to pitching different titles and stuff, and somehow that's where we ended up. Dream podcast guest?
Yeah.
We've had, we're having cast members and members of the creative team on is great. But we've also had some, we had Kristen Bell and Dax Shepard and Jon Stewart came on. So I don't know, anyone that likes talking about the show is, really fun to have on.
Alexa and Alex want to know, I'm going to read the second part here, if you could pick any Lumon perk to enjoy, what would it be?
Oh, that's a really good question. I mean, I would like to experience the waffle party. I thought that looked really fun.
Yeah. Someone here, actually, this was a good one. FMK, egg bar, melon bar, or waffle party? FMK.
You know, I like eggs. So I was that applause for eggs?
Protein!
But I think I would still go for waffle party, just for the kind of entertainment.
Yeah. Justine wants to know, moral quandary aside, what would you use an innie for?
I mean, having two teenagers, I've been to the not spending time with my teenagers. Having two teenagers, I've been to the DMV quite a bit in the last few years, and that's never fun.
Right.
So I don't know, having an innie just for DMV visits,
Right.
that could.
Practical.
Yeah.
You are hopefully going to be embarking on yet another new adventure in your career. You want to direct a movie. This is an aspiration.
Yeah.
Has this been something on your mind for a while?
It has been. I've been looking for something for a long time, and yeah, we hope to be doing it sometime soon. But yeah, we have an incredible cast, and yeah, I mean, I couldn't be more excited. It's just a matter of finding the time to do it.
Yeah.
But yes, we hope to be rolling ASAP.
Do you feel like you found some kind of balance? We talked at the outset of kind of like the odd nature of your career of kind of finding yourself in this comedy realm and then kind of backing into drama and back and forth. It feels like now people know you for both, thankfully, and that's quite an achievement to know that you can do both and can do both very, very well.
Yeah.
Do you anticipate it's always going to be the case of like, as soon as you've done one, it's time to try the other?
That's an interesting question. Or as Zach Galifianakis said when I was on Between Two Ferns, he said, comedy, drama, what can you do? I think so. I mean, I think that it's always fun to kind of vacillate back and forth, but at the same time, it's also just project specific and what kind of makes sense for me at a particular moment. And it's all material based, I guess.
We don't know officially yet. Hopefully, we'll get more Severance. But do you and Ben and Dan know if the audience is there? I don't expect you to answer this, by the way. How many seasons? Like, do you have an idea of like what this would be in your perfect world?
Pretty much, yeah. I think so. I think so.
3 to 5, 5 to 7. There's no, it's worthless.
Less than 70.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's an exclusive. Okay, we're going to end here with the Happy, Sad, Confused, Profoundly Random questions, Adam. Are you
Great.
ready?
Yeah.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs. But I really
Don't qualify.
I know.
You hate cats.
But I do love cats. But dogs, I didn't have a dog until about 9 years ago. I always wanted one. We got some dogs, and it's just unlike anything else.
What do you collect?
What do I collect? I mean, I used to collect Blu-rays and CDs.
Don't
That
say it
all
like
went
that.
out
Be
the
proud.
window.
What do you mean? Physical media is still around?
It's still around, but it's in
Boxes.
bins under my house. I guess maybe I enjoy clothing, because all that has kind of gone out the window.
What's the best video game of all time? Or a video game you spent the most time playing?
Maybe, boy, I was never the biggest video game person. But when I was a kid, I played a lot of Castle Wolfenstein.
Yeah.
The original Apple IIe version.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I don't know if I remember the specific version you're talking about.
Yeah,
I remember
yeah,
Castle
yeah.
Wolfenstein. Are you killing Nazis in that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Which is always
Always good.
Always good.
Never goes out of
Get
style.
rid of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gonna take the controversial stance that I'm anti-Nazi.
That I'm against Nazis. That's right.
What's the wallpaper on your phone?
Oh, it's a picture of my kids embracing.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Last actor you were mistaken for?
Oh, that's a good one. Boy, I don't know.
Has it ever happened? Have you ever signed someone else's photo? Have you?
No. I don't know. I don't know who the last actor I was mistaken for.
Was there ever a period, because you've known Rudd forever?
Yeah.
I would imagine there were some parallel parts you were maybe up for along the way. Did you have that at all?
Really, he kind of became a big deal right away.
Right.
Like when I was in acting school, he had graduated. He graduated, I guess, 2 years before I did. But we all knew about him because he had gotten a Nintendo commercial and was already a huge deal. Wow. But yeah, early on he got Clueless, which was like we were just like in our 20s, and he suddenly got this big thing, and yeah, he was always a big deal, rightly so.
Yes. What's the worst note a director has ever given you?
Oh my gosh. You know what one that I am never I never know what to do with, and it's not a bad piece of direction. Yeah. I just can't, for whatever reason, I can't turn it into anything good, is when they tell me to just have fun with it.
Right.
I don't know what that means. I don't know how to just have fun.
That's a bigger issue for you.
Yes. That's actually a good sort of peek inside my process. So that one, it's not bad per se, but for me, it won't get us anywhere.
Right. And in the spirit of Happy Second Fuse, who's an actor who always makes you happy? You see them on screen, you're in a better mood automatically.
Harrison Ford.
Yes.
Yeah. He's everything to me. Yeah.
Have you told him this?
I've never met him. But we went to the premiere for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and which I've seen many, many times now.
Good, yeah.
I know. And so we were sitting there getting ready. John Williams and his orchestra was playing, and then Ke Huy Quan came down and sat right in front of me, and I know him a little bit, and so I said hello, and we were both excited to see this movie. Now, Temple of Doom is my favorite movie.
I love it.
Okay.
Opening sequence of Temple of Doom, all-timer.
Unbelievable. Everything is just, and I was 11 when it came out, so it was made for me. It was perfect, and I still feel that way about it. But I was sitting behind Short Round watching the new Indiana Jones movie, and that was one of the great moments for me. But still, I did not go and meet Harrison Ford. I think I would be too freaked out, probably.
I'll be Harrison. You come up to me. Hey, kid.
Can I get you anything to drink, sir?
Amazing.
I'll be right back.
A movie that makes you sad?
That makes me sad? Boy. A movie that makes me sad every time and is wildly underrated and excellent is the Curtis Hanson movie In Her Shoes.
Oh, yeah. Cameron
It's
Diaz.
very good and just beautifully acted by Toni Collette and Cameron Diaz. But the ending of that movie is heartbreaking.
And finally, a food that makes you confused.
That makes me confused?
You don't get it.
You know what? I'm going to say, and it goes directly to Parks and Rec, is for all the, hubbub about Ben Wyatt and his favorite food, I find calzones confusing.
Why?
And often when I go to Italian restaurants, they ask me if I would like to try the calzone. And sometimes calzones are sent over. And every time that happens, I text Mike Schur and I just say, again, thanks.
People are trying to give you bread and cheese.
Yeah, and it's delicious, but I still find it an utterly confusing food.
It was a love fest for you. We all loved you up until that moment, Adam. Now you've lost the crowd.
I turned on the calzone.
I think that's a good note to end on. Severance Season 2, it's just getting started, guys. I would say spread the good word, but everybody knows about Severance. But tell your friends. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Give it up one more time. Adam Scott, everybody!